Yo, what is going on, guys? I'm back with another review video. It is going to be on my coolermaster MM720. And right off the bat, I did genuinely like this mouse for about the first week and a half. And then I got into a lot of issues later on, but I will obviously be talking about those issues. So in terms of the software, when I use wired mice, I always want all of the features, at least the programmable ones, to be on the mouse. Things like DPI, pulling rate, and then also debounce. I like all of it to be on the mouse, which is why I love Mice. That is genuinely like a softwareless needed mouse, and I really like that. On wireless mouse, I'm perfectly fine with there being a software that I may need to use because I love looking at the percent that I have on my mouse. So that's just going to be a personal preference thing. But the Cooler Master software, it was so fucking bad to get used to. I have never been like this upset using a software. I had to uninstall and reinstall it like 3 times, and then you also can't change anything on the mouse. You can't even get into the software until you update your mouse, which all of them for some reason need. And then when you get into the software, first off, this mouse has like 16 DPI steps. There's so many. Why? There's only 4 that matter. 400, 800, 1600, 3200. Anything else just doesn't exist to me. Just like left-handed mouse users. They just don't exist. They're just not there. So from the software, you can do a lot of things. You can obviously change everything that I listed before, and then you can change the RGB because it wouldn't be a gaming mouse without RGB. Getting the software out of the way, in terms of like the actual features of the mouse, there's some good and there's just a lot that I really don't like. The scroll wheel is just super dull. There's just nothing special about it. It feels a lot like an Extrafy scroll wheel, but I actually like an Extrafy scroll wheel. It's really soft, no tactility, but it's really stiff. So if you guys use like a Starlight 12 and you flick down, you'll notice like sometimes you get stuck in between the steps, and then like you move it a little bit and it'll just actuate, which is, it's just a feature of the mouse. This mouse, it's just so dull. I really wish I could put into words how dull this scroll wheel is. And maybe that's just a me thing. I've been spoiled by the Fnatic Bolt, Extrafy scroll wheels, the Endgame Gear XM1 scroll wheel. There's just so many better ones out there that this is it's just very poor. I don't know how many people follow me on Twitter, but the number one thing that I really noticed when first using this mouse was the clicks. These clicks are so bad. There's, first off, a ton of post travel. I don't know why there's so much post travel on these clicks. And then the other thing too is you can tell where the switches are. They're like right here because they feel the like most tactile. Usually I feel like the more forward people go, the more comfortable it'll be because there's comfort grooves. But the more forward you go, the more like bad the switch feels. You can feel all of the post travel, and then it also has the Fnatic Bolt effect where they just feel super dull. Like you can tell this entire area is just completely empty because it doesn't feel tactile. It feels too soft to be labeled as a switch. Speaking of switches, these side buttons are really funny. They're like the fucking Oompa Loompa of side buttons. Like, why the fuck are they so small? It's like comical. They feel just as bad as the main clicks too. Tons of post travel you can see over there. Not a whole lot of pre, which is good. I do like that there's not a lot of pre travel, but the post travel is definitely where it gets a little bit more difficult to spam click, especially for games like CS and Valorant. I did not like spam clicking with this mouse at all. It was really, really frustrating, honestly. Now the big thing, the shape. The shape is the only reason I wanted this mouse. I genuinely was really interested in this mouse because they advertise it as a claw grip shape, which is surprising because I genuinely thought that it would be more of a fingertip because of the thumb rest, but it actually feels amazing for both grips. For palm, I can't, it's just too small for palm, but for claw and fingertip, it feels amazing, honestly. And usually you can kind of get away with claw gripping fingertip mice, not vice versa, and honestly not a lot of the time. But for this mouse in particular, it feels really good to do both grips. The one thing that's really difficult to like really overcome with this mouse is actually going to be the best part of it, is that ring finger rest, because it's so wide, and honestly, there's no mouse that actually has this except the Zentex mouse, which is basically just a clone of this. But with this mouse in particular, no mouse has this kind of rest. So if you go back to a symmetrical mouse, maybe not an ergo because I don't use ergos. I mainly use symmetrical mice. So when you go back to a symmetrical mouse, gripping like over here like this again is so weird. It took a whole day for me to get used to my Starlight again, which is a mouse I use every single week. I always have it on my desk. I always end up going back to that mouse. and it's just so weird having an issue with a mouse I've been using since I got it. And that's the biggest issue, is if you're going to use other mice, this mouse is going to mess your brain up for a solid day. Just going back to other mice that you've used longer. And if this is going to be like the only mouse you want, and like, you know, it's your endgame mouse, then it just doesn't matter what I just said. But if you use other mice and you're like an enthusiast, it's going to be pretty difficult going back to other mice. It could just be a me thing, but recently I've been able to adjust to other shapes. So this is probably the worst thing about this mouse, and I didn't notice it until the second day, but these feet are the worst stock skates I've ever used. I thought it couldn't get worse than the Starlight 12, honestly, but this is so bad. I could cut somebody. I could genuinely rob somebody with how sharp these things are. It's like a fucking knife. It hurts so bad. It's insane. I used an Otsu for the first 2 days, and I thought my pad was getting slower, but it was just this thing like catching in the weave. It was so weird. This Odin Infinity, it feels really, really good. Well, I don't know if it's an Infinity. They haven't released the news yet, but it feels like one. But it feels okay on this. It might be because it's less textured. I just can't figure it out. Even on control pads, it was so much worse. On a Zero, it was way worse. It felt so bad. Every like flick, every like micro adjustment, I could just feel it tugging. It's just so difficult to put into words how much it would tug. So I'm thankfully I had to change the pad, but I also stopped using the mouse for 2 days because of that issue. Something that's on the lighter side, it's going to be this cable. This cable is really nice, honestly. I have never had any issues with it in a bungee, and it's very, very flexible. I genuinely cannot tell that it's actually there. So, you know, great job, coolermaster. You made a cable worth using finally. The weight is something that's really awesome. It's advertised at 49, but I always give 1 or 2 grams extra because I like to trust companies for some reason, and I'm gonna say it's like 51, 52 grams, and it feels really good. It was so easy getting used to this mouse because it's a really small mouse that can just fill your hand, and then it's also going to be really easy to use because it's very light. I'm actually playing a lot of MC Osu, and it was so nice using this mouse to track in that game. And then for Valorant, it's, like I said, the only issue were the clicks. So if I take that out, then this mouse was still really good to use in that game too. You get so much control with smaller, lighter mice, in my opinion. At least that's what I've noticed recently. I've been using a bunch of small, lightweight mice, and I've been aiming a lot better. And this mouse definitely has helped me aim a little bit better. Like I said, it's only that switching back to other mice that's really difficult to get used to. Now, I want to make a comparison with other small, lightweight mice. And the main 2 competitors for me personally within this price bracket is going to be an Extrafy M42 and a GameSense Meta. The main argument I will immediately put out is for the M42, there is a wireless version that you can buy, but I don't have it with me. I don't want to put wireless mice with a wired mouse for comparison, mainly because a lot of people would just go with the wireless mouse regardless of it being, you know, better. I do feel like all of these mice are incredible for claw. If you change the hump on the M42, then it can be really good for fingertip, but for the GameSense Meta, I don't think it's very good for fingertip. For me, I have a really small hand, so I can't really get all the way to the end of the buttons with fingertip, but clawing all of these mice feel really, really good. I'm just gonna like rapid fire the comparison too, because I know the video is getting really long and comparisons just make the video longer. So in terms of clicks, the GameSense Meta is gonna win. It's using Kale 4.0s on all of the switches, including the scroll wheel, and it has always felt amazing in my opinion. In terms of shape, I think the M42 is still one of my all-time favorite shapes, especially with the higher hump. So for shape, I like the M42 better. Cable, it's really a toss-up between GameSense Meta and coolermaster. Obviously, Extrafy has never been known for their good cables. Back then, now on their new mice, they have incredible cables like the MZ1. For cable, I want to give it to the Meta, honestly. And then for stock feet, all of these suck. But I think the GameSense Meta will take it for stock feet. They're a lot faster, a lot smoother glide than all of these other ones. I do have core pads on these, and you can see that the adhesive really fucked me. There's so much adhesive on the stock skates, so I genuinely don't even want to recommend to upgrade them because it took like 4 wipes, and I still have all that dust. In terms of weight, the best weight is going to be the coolermaster, honestly. But in terms of like overall mouse that I would use out of all 3, I would probably gravitate more towards the GameSense Meta, honestly. I still like the shape of the M42 better, but the clicks and the build quality have deteriorated so much over the years. well, year. So I can't really recommend this product, especially since Extrafy has never been able to nail down their build quality. All of the Extrafy mice that I own all have some build quality issues, especially with creaking. That is like the #1 thing, especially my clicks here. They all creak when I do this. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video. My next review is going to be on this Odin mousepad that I've absolutely been loving. It is goddamn beautiful though. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you with the next upload. Peace.
Are you pushing back down there?
Yeah, I'm pushing back this way.
Or that was in the corner, bro.
Suck bag, you look at no plates.
That guy goes crazy.
They're coming through series.
恐怖を見せてやる。3人マーク。
God damn. I went some pretty low.
さあ行
2名。
け。視界を奪う。
弾は死なせない。
悪夢に飲まれろ。2人マーク。
4人目だ。
Yo. Huh? Ult, 2 flashes, and deep. Let me rip the Wolverine color. The Mount St. Michael color.
Yo, give me the cinnamon.
I'll be cool.
Behind.
How'd I hit his leg? With the comp reaction going.
Dark shoulder.
Doink.